Hello, this is the Escape Podcast, where movies go to abide. I'm Brandon.
I'm Josh.
Today we're going to be talking about 1998's The Big Lebowski. It's no secret that this is actually my favorite movie.
Of all time?
Yes, and part of the reason I wanted to do it was because we're on the 20th anniversary of the movie.
Yeah, it just happened in March.
Yep. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about before we started?
Oh! Actually, I thought I heard, don't quote me, I was going to look real quick and I forgot. Is there a Captain Marvel trailer?
It's coming soon. I don't know if it's out right now.
Should I pause and take a quick look at it?
Sure. And we're back.
So yeah, there's a Captain Marvel trailer.
Yeah, we just watched it.
Just now.
That was pretty cool. I like seeing Blockbuster at the beginning.
To tell you the truth, that was the biggest part I liked. To me, this looks most like a DC film for Marvel. It reminded me of the Green Lantern movie.
Well,
a little bit of the Aquaman. And there was even
Aquaman?
There was a part where they were swimming underwater, and I noticed there's like a lot of blue people with like pointy ears, and I don't know, like it just reminded me of Aquaman. And there was somebody that looked like the Flash almost, like they were wearing like it looked like it was blue, but like his eyes were. I don't think they were swimming
underwater. I thought they were flying in space.
There was one part that looked like they were underwater.
I don't know.
I don't care about it as usual. But it just, the Blockbuster part was kind of cool.
Well, it's going to take place in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
About.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed, like, it looks like Coulson. There's a guy, you know, clearly
it's going to be cool to see Nick Fury and Coulson at their younger versions of them. Yeah. But at the same time, you know, they're going to be CG'd up. So I wonder how noticeable it'll be. Yeah. They get better at that stuff, but still, like, when, like, the movement in the mouth and the eyes, there's something they just can't get about that, so it might be distracting.
There was, I don't watch it, but Dave sends me links here and there. It's Star Trek Continues. And he sends me this one, and it was said something like Star Trek Continues deep fake, and I had never heard that word. I didn't know what that meant. So, like, I'm looking at it, and because he sent me, like, the picture of the guys that are playing Kirk and Spock and all these guys, and I did notice the guy. I was like, wow, they must have got a newer guy to play Spock, because he looks more like Leonard Nimoy. And then Dave says to me, did you notice Shatner? I was like, no, what are you talking about? He's like, well, that was Shatner's face. And it's like I could tell there was something different looking. I could tell the guy, because again, I've seen this actor who's playing Kirk in this thing. I could tell he looked different, but it didn't strike me as looking like Shatner. And then when I rewatched it, I was like, oh yeah, like that is supposed to be Shatner, and that's Nimoy. And I guess I looked it up. Deep fake is where they can take pictures or video, I guess, of people, and they'll have an actor do the performance, and then they can kind of paste over it. And whereas in certain movies I've seen stuff like this, and I wasn't super impressed, I was actually kind of impressed because, I mean, this is fairly a low-budget thing that they do, and I was kind of impressed how well they pulled it off for their...
It was just pictures, though?
No, it was actual video acting, but I'm not saying it was, like, the best thing I've ever seen, but just...
Well, you'll have to put it up on our Facebook or something so other people can see it.
I'm not doing Facebook no more. But yeah, so, have you ever seen Starman?
I think I've seen bits of it on TV.
Yeah, it's, for some reason, a little bit of this trailer kind of reminded me of that, where, and maybe I'm just reaching here or just seeing stuff that's not there, but just the idea that it's like he's human, but he's kind of got some extra things going on. A few 80s movies that kind of have that theme. Like even in Critters. In the second one, when the guy from the small town, he goes up, and when he comes back, he's kind of now got his foot in both camps. Like he's, I don't know, it's like a little bit like he's almost of both worlds. Like, because now he,
well, she's a human from Earth, but then she went somewhere in space.
Which also kind of reminds me of Guardians a little bit with Star-Lord character. Isn't it? He's kind of like that to a degree. But
she's got, like, abilities and stuff.
I don't know. I guess in that sense, it's like, it's kind of cool, but then it's almost kind of seems overdone or done before. And like I said, just for some reason, this looks very like a DC movie.
Well, I don't know if the trailer really gave us that much information where you can make that determination.
Oh, I can make it. It's made. It's made. Take it to the bank. No, I don't know. I mean, this is just a first impression thing. I mean, I could be very wrong. Probably am. But no, that's just the vibe I got from it.
Well, you finally saw Infinity War.
I did.
And you said it was just okay.
Okay, here's the thing. So you slowly but surely got me. In fact, the only movie I haven't seen is Black Panther.
In my opinion, it's super overrated. But it's on Netflix now.
It is on Netflix now. I'm going to watch it. And isn't there some... Oh, yeah, I haven't seen Ant-Man 2. But all the movies predating Infinity War I have seen except for Black Panther. It's not that it was bad. In fact, I do think it was better than Avengers 2. I just feel like all these characters, like, you know, the Doctor Strange movie, it was okay. But I didn't like him enough to see him again. It's like, to me, I could have just been happy just in his own little world, doing his own thing. I didn't care enough about seeing him with the crew.
I thought he was awesome in that movie. And the way they interacted.
You know, Spider-Man, I am not a fan of this Spider-Man. He's basically the Iron Spider-Man. Like, it's like his suit does all the work. He doesn't really seem to have anything going for himself. I don't like the Guardians at all. I didn't like seeing them in this movie.
Either way, it was a big movie, and this movie, the Captain Marvel movie, and Ant-Man 2 are both going to be important to see before the next one comes out.
And, like, you know, I'm kind of, I don't know, like, a lot of people will say it's probably makes your villain more interesting to add this notion that he or she thinks they're doing the world, the universe, whatever, a favor. To me, that almost seems overdone. Like, okay, so he thinks that he's actually doing something good.
Well, nobody thinks they're a bad guy.
I guess, but, like, I don't know, like...
And if that's how you write the character, then that's just so cartoony.
I don't know. I kind of just wanted a bad guy just to be bad. He knows that what he's doing is murder. He knows that he's doing destruction. Like, I don't want to have a guy, at least in this case, I don't feel like sympathizing with him.
Well, I don't think he doesn't know that. He thinks that it's a sacrifice that has to be made.
I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. I'm kind of done with those. I don't know. It just seems very cliche to do that. Just like the whole thing where all these movies have to have the hero and the villain somehow have a connection. They're related, or their dads work together, or it just seems very overdone, and it just, I don't know. It's kind of old hat for me. So it wasn't a bad movie, but to me it still doesn't touch the original Avengers. However, I do think it was better than Avengers 2, which I've only seen once, so maybe if I give that another go, I'll like it better. But it didn't pump me up to like, oh my goodness, I've been missing out with these movies. I got to get, keep on the ball. Like, I couldn't care less still. A lot of these movies just feel like a one-time viewing, and maybe several years from now, maybe I'll feel like watching them again. There's too many of them too often, and they're not special to me anymore. Back when Iron Man 1 and 2 and Captain America and the original Avengers, I was all interested and liked them, but kind of fell flat on them.
Okay.
But you more than... What are you looking at me like that for? You asked. I had no intention of talking about me just now seeing Avengers since it was, 4 months ago? You said something about me talking about it. I was like, why? It's so long ago now. What's the point of bringing it up? Then you're going to give me looks when you ask me? You jerk. You have more than enough Marvel mania to pick up my slack, so...
All right, you ready?
Buttface. Are you ready?
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about before Big Lebowski?
A friend of mine was telling me a little too much about The Predator. Today, he's like... So in the end of this movie, and I was like, wait a minute, is this going to spoil anything? He's like, no, but at the end of this movie, this happens, and then they get on this, and then they do that, and I was like, now granted, I know this movie wasn't going to do well, but last time we talked, I had said that I was kind of a little more warming up to it than I had, just kind of felt like maybe it knew what it was and wasn't trying to be overly, just kind of knew it was a dumb action sci-fi movie and was just kind of leaving it at that. So I still have interest in seeing it. I'm willing to see anything, even if everyone says it's really bad. So I still want to check it out.
Yeah, I watched the Stuckman review for it. He didn't spoil anything, but he made it sound like...
I know. I started watching some of his, and then he was talking so much about it, I actually shut it off because I felt like he was telling too much. This guy at work, he had said it was good into a point, and then it got really silly and extreme. In fact, his words were on his own. He goes, it was kind of doing the Marvel thing where it was just too over the top, craziness.
Yeah, so I might see it. I don't know, but it didn't sound all that. It sounded disappointing. That's the word that I kept hearing over and over again.
You see, and that's what's funny to me is you'll see all these Marvel movies, which to me a lot of them are nothing to write home about. But I don't know. I'd rather see something. I mean, I guess they're doing a lot of they're doing these Predators every few years now. It seems like they're not planning to. They're just trying to get it to catch fire again. But I don't know, I'd rather see that than see these Marvel movies every year. I don't know.
You'd rather watch The Predator over and over again?
No, I'm saying I'd rather watch.
All right.
A
Catch
new
us
Predator
next time
movie.
on the Anti-Marvel podcast.
You asked.
All right.
Punch you right in the face.
Was there anything else?
Nothing I can think of.
There was that Superman news, which I don't really know much about.
Oh, yeah. I mentioned it to Dave, and he's like, that's not true. That's not happening. And I was like, I don't know. I'm just saying. I
heard that he's not going to be Superman, Henry Cavill, again. And then I heard that wasn't true. And then I heard that he was in discussions. So I don't know what's going on. I don't really care about like DC that much, so it doesn't really bother me.
It's like, I don't know. It's like part of me wants DC to get it right because it's like I almost just feel bad for them for, like everyone craps on DC, everyone praises Marvel. I'd almost like to see DC just do a really good movie. And they had that in Wonder Woman. Everyone kind of praised it.
I thought you wanted less superhero movies, though.
I do, but I'm saying I still kind of sympathize with them because they're kind of the underdog right now.
Well, I don't feel bad with them for making dumb mistakes. That's their fault. Them and Warner Brothers, they're making a bunch of dumb mistakes.
I get that.
Put
I'm
out
just
bad
saying.
Movies.
I guess it would be nice to just hear something positive about a DC movie.
Well, there's some positive stuff, but it's just mostly bad. Yeah. Like I saw Dave was saying that he's the best actor to have ever played Superman. Like I don't get it because like whenever I didn't like Man of Steel because he's not Superman. He's just some guy that runs around upset that he has to save people. Superman that I know used to run around like, you better do right, Billy. That type of guy. Run around and save everybody with a smile.
I do remember seeing that. I've only seen it once in the theaters, and I remember walking out, and I just thought it was like, I remember thinking it was really bad.
There's a lot of stuff I didn't like about it. I don't like Amy Adams that much. I think she's boring in almost everything she's in. A lot of stuff didn't make sense. Like, why is she riding with the military and telling them how to do stuff? She's just a reporter. How do they have any, other than being attractive-looking people, how do they have any type of chemistry with each other? They're both boring. Neither one of them has any personality.
I got nothing to explain that with.
Anyway, so today we're doing The Big Lebowski, woo, from 1998. When's the first time you saw this movie?
Several years ago. I'm not sure exactly when.
So it already kind of caught on. Because I know when it came out, it didn't do very well in theaters.
It came out in 98. I might have seen it in 99.
It got kind of mixed reviews from critics. Okay. They weren't too high on it. And then it seemed like over time it's gathered that cult following to where like they have their own festivals and stuff now.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. It's funny to me when movies like this have festivals. Like
Lebowski Fest.
For a one-time, like usually movies like that have those types of gatherings, they're usually sci-fi or horror, fantasy type movies. And usually they're
like
movies,
conventions and stuff.
Yeah, and usually they're movies that have more than one film, typically, not always. But yeah, it's always funny to me when a movie like this, especially like a it's for all intents and purposes, it's like a very more realistic than...
I remember seeing the trailer, like the commercials for it back on TV. And I was interested in it. It looked funny. I wanted to go see it. Because back then I was just a huge fan of comedy stuff. But this is a comedy, but it's a little more than that too. It's a bit of I'd say like a Private Eye type of movie, like a film noir.
No, yeah. There's definitely that element going on. So we both grab our.
Let's do the synopsis. Synopsis is: Jeffrey the Dude Lebowski is mistaken for a millionaire by the same name. He seeks restitution for his ruined rug, but finds himself, along with his bowling buddies, pulled into a kidnapping plot. So, kind of unwittingly, he becomes, or unwillingly, I don't know, either way. He becomes almost like a private investigator trying to figure out like what happened to this girl.
At first it's a little unwillingly, but then he thinks, well, they're going to give me 10% or whatever of the money. So then he kind of decides it's an easy gig.
Let's do some trivia.
You do some trivia.
In an interview with Rolling Stone magazine, John Goodman stated that the dude, referring to the Big Lebowski as a human paraquat, was one of the only improvised lines to make it into the final film. Virtually every other line, including every man and dude, was scripted. Which is kind of interesting. I know there's a little bit more than that, like John Turturro, his character. That was left completely up to him. They just kind of said, okay, this is who you are. You're this guy.
Is that Jesus?
Yeah, the Jesus. It was his idea to come in dressed like that. He bought his own wardrobe. He did the thing with the bowling ball himself. So all of his stuff was kind of ad-libbed by him.
Okay.
So much as to where I've heard that the Coen brothers basically say he owns the character. And I had heard that John Turturro wanted to make a movie about that character, and they gave him permission. So I don't know if that's...
Oh, to let him do his own movie?
Yeah, supposedly he was working on it. I don't know if it's still...
Yeah, I don't know if that would be enough to... I'm not sure. But anyway, continue.
Before filming a scene, Jeff Bridges would frequently ask the Coen brothers, did the dude burn one on the way over? If they said he had, he would rub his knuckles in his eyes before doing the take to make his eyes appear bloodshot.
Okay.
In an early draft of the script, the dude's source of income was revealed. He was an heir to the inventor of the Rubik's Cube, which would have also made him Hungarian in turn. It was Joel Coen's idea to drop this and never say. It's probably a good idea. I do wonder, like, I just assume he gets probably, like, Social Security checks or something.
I figured, like, something like that. He was probably fired or
he's on some kind of,
too much of a burnout to go to work, and that he's just kind of...
Yeah, like lazy. A long-term unemployment check.
Yeah, possibly he got injured at work and he's just...
Maybe he only works just enough to get that unemployment check and then gets himself fired or whatever.
Yeah.
This is John Goodman's favorite of the films in which he appears. The dude says man 147 times in the movie, nearly 1.5 times a minute. What do you think the most used word in this movie is?
The.
I'll give you a clue. It starts with an F. Fudge. I remember watching this. I watched this on DVD years ago, and I actually set tally marks for every time they dropped an F-bomb.
Okay.
It was like over 250. I also counted like White Russians and all that stuff.
Yeah.
In the clean version for television broadcast, the famous line, "This is what happens when you... a stranger in the... was changed to, "This is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps." It's frequently cited as one of the most creative edits made for a film to be aired on television.
Reminds me of Die Hard 2. Something about your flat foot, or we wouldn't be knee deep in snow right now.
My famous story is always the one like TBS would change stuff, and it was the great outdoors whenever somebody's swearing in the cabin.
Yeah.
And they change it to blow it out your wazoo.
Oh, I remember you told me that, yeah.
When being interviewed for Inside the Actors Studio in 1994, Jeff Bridges met with the Coen brothers after reading the script and asked them, "Did you guys hang out with me in high school?" Referring to the dude's easygoing surfer persona.
I never thought of him as a surfer guy.
No.
He more reminded me of a hippie.
He was a hippie,
that, just kind of almost never outgrew it.
The screenplay was written with Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, Steve Buscemi, and Sam Elliott in mind. I had heard that they had sent the script to Sam Elliott, and he called him back up, and he's like, "Guys, I'll be in your movie, but there's nothing really for me to do. Like, I don't need to be in it. There's no need for this character." And they're like, "We know."
He probably filmed all his stuff in like
a day.
One day, yeah.
Yeah, because he did the voiceovers for like a couple scenes, and then he was in the 2 scenes at the bar with the dude. So, and it's kind of weird, like he's a narrator, but there's not really that much narrating.
Yeah.
Let's see. The dude tells Maude that he was a roadie for Metallica on their fictional Speed of Sound tour, and refers to the band members as a bunch of jerks. Metallica themselves were flattered to be referred to in a Coen Brothers movie, with guitarist Kirk Hammett once noting in an interview that they'd tried to think of a way to incorporate that scene into their live shows. Speaking of rockers, one of the characters in the movie is actually Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yes.
He is one of the nihilists, the kidnappers.
Yep.
The dude's line, "The dude abides," is a reference to Ecclesiastes 1:4. "One generation passes away and another generation comes, but the earth abides forever." It is a reference to how the dude, much like the earth, can weather change and chaos around him but still remain the same. That's pretty cool, because that's basically, this is a whirlwind of a movie. All this crazy stuff is happening, and he's just kind of going with the flow. Like, he gets worked up a little, but at the end of the movie, he's still the same guy.
Well, it's like at one point he's very passive about everything. Like they're telling him like Bunny's been kidnapped. He doesn't seem to be too concerned about it. And even when these guys are broke into his house and they're shoving his head in the toilet and questioning him, he seems pretty calm. The most he seems to get concerned and almost flip-flops is when he's concerned her life is in our hands. We didn't give them we didn't drop off the briefcase. Like, we got to do things the way they want. And he seems a little more responsible at that point. Where, he's just very like, what ifs, man?
When he's worried about Bunny, he's kind of freaking out. And then also after the Nihilists come and threaten him.
Yeah, to me, his character changes a little bit, personally. I think he feels like he...
But at the end of the movie,
a little bit grows up.
Okay.
Just a little bit. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying I'm right, but that's just
fine.
The impression I got. Am I allowed to have this opinion?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Sam Elliott and Ben Gazzara, who played Jackie Treehorn, the rich guy at the beach, they both appeared in Roadhouse together in 1989. That's actually where I know Ben Gazzara the most from.
Okay.
I'm not sure I've seen Ben Gazzara in too many other things.
Okay.
But Sam Elliott was also in Tombstone.
Right.
And also in that first Hulk movie.
Yes.
There is a religious movement based on the dude, the Church of Latter-day Dude.
That's silly.
Have you ever thought of converting?
No, I haven't.
Do you know what a paraquat is?
No. Can't say I do.
It's kind of another way of calling somebody a buzzkill. It's something to kind of reduce the effects of smoking weed, I guess. I looked it up because I was like, what is that?
Okay.
It's a treatment. Of all the different personalized bowling shirts Donnie wears throughout the film, none of them bears his name, which we noticed with the dude. His says Art.
I only remember that shirt in the one scene. The one he's wearing, Art.
Yeah, I commented on those shirts too. I want to get a bowling shirt and I want to get that baseball t-shirt that he wears. Yeah. Anyway, so that's enough for the trivia.
So yeah, this movie, it's kind of interesting. So it starts off, it has that slow pan of the desert until it reveals, Los Angeles, which I thought was kind of cool. You're probably going to laugh or at least roll your eyes at me. It kind of reminds me in Predator 2, because obviously the first Predator took place in the jungle. Predator 2 starts off, which is Los Angeles as well, where they're playing the typical Predator, like little sound music, whatever you call it, and it's like panning over the jungle, and then it finally gets to the part where you see Los Angeles. I just thought that was kind of an interesting way to, because you got like this guy that sounds like a cowboy, and you're seeing the desert. It's almost like throws you for a little bit of a loop of what kind of movie it is, but I thought that was kind of a neat way to segue into it.
Well, the Coen brothers, they have lots of neat shots in this. I'm a big fan of them. I've seen not all their movies, but a bunch of them.
Name some of their big ones for me.
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Okay. No Country for Old Men. Blood Simple, I think was one. I haven't seen that one. I heard that one. Yeah. They did the remake of True Grit.
Okay.
Trying to think of some other ones.
Which is funny because like No Country for Old Men and the newer True Grit are very different types of movies than, like, I almost would assume they would be more comedy. Even Oh Brother, Where Art Thou has, it's a comedy. It's a different kind of comedy, but like, they have a little bit of a
like a darker tone.
Well, no, I was going to say just the fact that I would assume all their stuff would have been more of a comedy.
There's
realm.
They have a lot of like darker comedy in their movies, and like Big Lebowski falls under comedy for sure. Burn After Reading is kind of a comedy.
Okay.
But like, like True Grit and No Country for Old Men, those are pretty serious. Fargo had a lot of funny moments in it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I have not seen any of their movies that I didn't like. Okay. I think the most recent one that I saw was Hail Caesar, which came out a couple years ago. Yeah. I liked that one. I've heard somebody describe that as the most Coen brother movie. Okay. And after you watch a few of them and then you watch that one, you'll see why.
Okay.
They like to reuse a lot of the same actors, so we've seen these actors either together or separately in other movies of theirs.
Yeah, I mean they're not the first, obviously, to do that. John Hughes was a big guy for that, but there's a bunch of little funny scenes right at the beginning. I thought it was funny. He goes to the supermarket in his bathrobe. He pays for the milk with a check.
For 69 cents.
Yeah, 67 cents or whatever it was. They're shoving his head in the toilet. Let me look back down there again. Yeah. Little stuff like that. He's putting on bowling shoes without socks. I don't know.
He's an interesting character. Jeff Bridges did a great job playing him. He, you can tell, like, he's definitely, like, that hippie character. He's lazy, and he's not smart, but he's not stupid either.
Well, yeah, but, like, with these scenes, like, some scenes, when they're supposed to be funny, they're, like, it's, like, something that you're supposed to get a laugh out of, but some of these things are, I feel like they're more subtle. Like when he's they're talking, he's changing his shoes and puts on bowling shoes without socks. For some reason that struck me as funny, but like I don't know if it's something that was meant to be like, haha. He says, I'm pretty sure he holds up the wrong hand when he says, "Do you see a wedding ring?" He holds up his right hand.
He's got a little of a like smart aleck tone to him.
Okay,
he'll talk back to people a little bit, even when. Like, he's in that room talking to the Big Lebowski, the rich one, the millionaire.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, you go out for a job looking like that? And he's like, a job? He's like, on a weekday? And Jeff Bridges says, what day is this? He's coming off as though he's serious, but he's not.
I see. I didn't pick up on that then.
I
felt like he was like being like, in his mind, that's a serious statement.
I feel like once he got basically tired of that guy talking to him like that, he just started kind of messing with him.
I think it's interesting. There's almost like two intros. So you have the first intro, the desert, the pan into the city. You see the tumbleweed rolling around the city, even with the narrator. And then you kind of, you meet him in the supermarket. And then it goes into the bowling intro where you're seeing all these guys bowling. And there's like the actual credits and stuff. It almost seemed like, it struck me almost like, I wonder if they had two ideas of how they wanted to start the movie. Didn't know which one to pick, so they just decided to go with both of them. Did that strike you that way or no?
No, not to me.
No? I don't know. I just thought it was kind of interesting to do that.
There was the intro with the narrator kind of like setting the stage. Mm-hmm. And then the credits. Basically, that was a credit scene with the bowlers going. I always get a chuckle when we see the bowlers in slow motion doing their thing, because I think to myself, these are athletes, but they're all like...
I don't agree with that.
I know you don't.
Bowlers are not athletes.
How many bowling movies have you seen?
This and Kingpin, for sure.
Yeah, those are the only two I can think of. If you said that this is the bowling movie to somebody, I think they would think of Kingpin.
Yeah.
Because it's not really that much about bowling. There's a lot of bowling in it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like... That's the main hub they're hanging out at. John Goodman constantly talks about the tournament. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's sitting around listening to the sounds of people bowling strikes or whatever on his headphones, and it's like he's actually like practicing. Do you notice that? He's like, at one point, I think he throws his hand like he was
like he's visualizing it.
Yeah.
It's almost a form of meditation for him to think about the bowling.
Yeah.
And then we get to meet Donnie and Walter. Mm-hmm. John Goodman and
Steve Buscemi.
Yep. Throughout the movie, John Goodman is constantly telling
Don's his brother.
Donnie to...
He was in The Little Lebowski.
Yes. John Goodman's character Walter is constantly telling Donnie to shut up.
Yeah.
Part of the reason for that is because in Fargo, Steve Buscemi was also in that.
Yeah.
The Coen brothers thought it'd be funny because Steve Buscemi's character in Fargo was kind of a motor mouth. He would never shut up. Mm-hmm. Just don't let him talk in this one.
Gotcha.
Here's something for you real quick.
Sure.
So, throughout the movie, most of the interaction that Donnie has, although he talks to the dude doesn't really talk back to him that often. It's mostly, it seems like Donnie and Walter are the two that are closest to each other, even though John Goodman's constantly telling him to shut up. Mm-hmm. The first few times that I watched this, I wondered if perhaps Donnie was actually a figment of Walter's imagination.
That's funny you say that, because I didn't pick up on that, but I wondered if the cowboy was either like supposed to be like an angel or a ghost or a figment of the dude's imagination, because I know he talks to the bartender at the end, but you don't see the bartender really respond. You never see him really interact with anyone else. At one point they're sitting there and then like they kind of pan over, and then when they pan back he's just...
So you like the idea that he's kind of an observer?
Well, it almost reminded me of Clarence from It's a Wonderful Life. And I thought it was also interesting. He knew stuff about the dude that it didn't seem like anyone told him. You never saw...
So you want to turn this into a sci-fi movie and make him an alien?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm just saying, it makes me wonder if they were kind of interjecting a It's a Wonderful Life kind of idea into it, maybe just as a joke. It seemed like the second time he talks to him, just at the end of the movie, that was really about the second time they only ever talked, and you never see that the dude tells him too much about his personal life, yet he knows about the baby. He knows about all the going-ons with him. It's it's kind of cool that they didn't actually just say it or allude to it, but it was just kind of interesting.
Yeah,
it made me wonder.
He knew the whole story when there's no way that this character, who wasn't in the movie hardly at all, should know all
right,
of it.
Yeah. It was kind of just a little cool thing, but I never quite picked up on that with Donnie. But I'm not saying you're wrong.
I believe Sam Elliott in the movie was credited as the stranger, so they just kind of left it ambiguous.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's kind of an abstract thing that they did with him, so,
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been, like, I definitely feel like by the end of it, John Goodman felt bad for the way he had constantly treated Donnie.
Do you think he felt bad, or did he cared about him the whole time? He just...
it's
more like a big brother.
Yeah, I was going to say, it could be like your little annoying brother that you constantly dump on, but when something happens and you kind of feel bad that you weren't there, maybe to whatever, it could have been like that too. But I definitely, like, I got the impression, like, he was intending when they were at the mortuary that he hands him, like, the check. He took it from him, and I almost felt like had it been something more reasonable, he was planning on maybe just, like, paying the cost, but then he got mad.
I feel like the only people that Donnie was probably hanging out with were the dude and Walter. And I think Walter was closer to him, and, like, the dude was more of a close acquaintance. That's the way it felt to me.
It could be. I feel like Walter is clearly, like, a damaged person, and
he's alone. We know that because he's no friends or family or anybody. Like, the people that take care of him for the funeral and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about Walter, though.
Oh, yeah, Walter's definitely... He's got issues.
Well, I mean, think about this. He's wearing his wedding ring around his dog tag. He's constantly talking about the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. And it seems like, okay, so his wife remarried, but he's still wearing the ring, essentially. Not on his finger, but on the necklace. He's taking care of her dog. Did he say something about watching her house for her? I thought he's converted to her religion and is keeping with her religion. So, like, clearly I feel like he took that very hard, which anybody would, but even after all this time, I think, because the dude keeps reminding him, like, how X number of years ago, like, you guys were divorced. So I almost get the impression that's why he's drowning himself so much in the tournament. It's his way of distracting him from everything else. And then, of course, it may be a little bit of both. Like, partially the Vietnam War, always talking about that, could have been part of the reason maybe she separated, but I feel like he's constantly referencing that as another distraction.
So you think he's more upset about the divorce than the actual war?
No, not at all. I'm saying he's probably got both. I think he the fact that he still does whatever his wife needs, and he's still constantly talking about the war and his friends that died. I think it's a little bit of both. I think that's why he's so about the tournament, and then now all of a sudden there's this kidnapping plot and getting the girl back and the money. And I don't think it's so much, I mean, I'm sure he wants money too, but, like, I feel like it just gives him a sense of purpose. Because it also kind of reminds me of Rumsfeld from The Burbs, where he's constantly talking about the war, but then when they hatched this little plan to break into the Klopek's house, like, he's got the full garb and all this stuff, like, he's just itching for anything to feel useful again. I get that. Maybe I'm putting way too much into it.
No, because I agree with Mr.
Yeah, I just feel like, he's stuck in that, and he feels like he needs something.
There's I think that the relationship between the dude and Walter is kind of a funny thing in itself, because the dude's more of a, like, the hippie type of guy. He's the guy that would have been protesting the war.
Which is funny that they're friends.
Yeah.
I'm imagining these guys probably met in the bowling alley and probably just, I mean, of course, obviously this predates The Office, but I also wonder if Dwight was slightly influenced by Walter's character. Just the way... In The Office, Dwight is constantly about what's ever good for the company, whatever Michael wants, my beet farm, my this, and this is a stretch, but the same way where Walter's about, whatever my wife needs, and the war, and the tournament, it's all about the tournament, like, he has these certain key things that you're still going to be there tomorrow for practice, right? Well, what about the tournament this Saturday? Like, it's, or Sunday, or whatever, like, it's these core things that he will not let go.
Yeah, it's funny, Walter doesn't get upset by too much. But the things that do upset him, like, really set him off, and they're little things, like Smokey stepping over the line, and he pulls the gun on him, makes him change
and what's
the
funny
score.
too is you think they would have got banned from the tournament, which the dude does get a call about that, but then, like, the next day they're back at the bowling alley. You think he would have been banned from the bowling alley? I have a feeling
like they're so regular there that they can let certain things slide.
Okay,
that is kind of extreme.
Yeah.
But, like, the dude, when he's getting frustrated with Walter, he'll tell him F off, and that doesn't bother Walter at all. But when he says F the tournament, Walter gets upset.
Almost like you spoke against his religion.
Yeah, and he didn't want to come and pick the dude up at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Because he was Shabbos, whatever, doing the Jewish day arrest. Mm-hmm. But the dude threatened to be off the bowling team, so he came and got him.
Yeah. So I didn't notice it actually the first time. I'm glad we watched it again. So Jesus... He keeps his pinky finger
like a coke nail,
like a claw, and he has it painted purple, which is his whole theme. He's got kind of this Prince thing going on. It reminded me, I had this job at Target once, and there was this man. I don't know. I'm really funny about fingernails. I don't know, I always want them to keep short and clean looking.
I just cut mine today. I like to keep them so there's like no white. I approve.
Yeah, actually, I need to cut mine, but anyway, there was this manager. He kept all his fingernails short except for his thumb. Mm-hmm. And I remember at one point, the first time I noticed that there was some plastic on something that we needed to, get. It was like shrink wrap.
He just cut it with his thumb.
And he was starting to use his thumb, and I'm like looking at it, and I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know, like that's just weird and
the only reason I can think of for anybody to do that is so they can like separate drugs.
Yeah, I mean it looks ridiculous. I don't know. It's just I didn't notice it the first time.
I'm not a big fan of fingernails. So anyway, the dude's rug gets peed on, and he's upset by it. Walter gives him the idea. Well, why don't you go talk to the millionaire about it? And I think, that sounded like a halfway decent idea. Like, go warn the guy, hey, these guys are looking for you, by the way.
But his whole thing was to really try to get compensated for this rug.
He really wanted that rug back. And I think it seems like had he approached it different, maybe he would have had more success. But he ends up getting the rug anyway.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. He comes out and he tells his, it's Philip Seymour Hoffman, which, is it Brandt or Grant?
Brandt.
Okay, I thought it was Brandt. He tells him, yeah, he told me I could take any rug in the house.
So we meet Brandt and the Big Lebowski. Who are two funny characters. It's funny with Philip Seymour Hoffman. Anytime I ever see him, I always think of Brandt, and I always think it was the most perfect role for him. I know he got more popular as the years went by, up and like wasn't he in the what's that book movie?
Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
I know. So a lot of people know him from like that and a few other things.
Let's see. When I think of Philip Seymour Hoffman, I know he. Gee, what do I know him from? It's. I know he was in some comedy movies. He was in. Was he in that Pirate Radio, I think? And I know he was in that movie with, is it Long Came Polly with Ben Stiller and Jennifer Aniston, I believe. And that one, he was kind of the gross guy. He was a little more, had a little bit of a dude type personality. Mm-hmm. A little bit. Just, he was a little more of a slob and all that kind of stuff.
I know a lot of people thought of him as a pretty good actor. I haven't seen him in a whole lot. I think mostly what I remember him from is this.
He kind of has a Dwight thing going on too, but just the way it's like whatever the Big Lebowski wants, he is all about his instructions. It just seems like Smithers with Mr. Burns, like almost kind of orbits him, just very like, whatever you say, boss.
Oh, yeah. He's like a manservant.
Yeah.
So I think of him from this, and I think of him from actually, what's that Robin Williams movie where he's the doctor?
Patch Adams.
Yes. That's really the two things I think of him the most from. The other guy who plays the Big Lebowski, the rich millionaire Jeffrey Lebowski, is David Huddleston. And he died in 2016 at 85.
Did he, any way, shape, or form, did he remind you of Roosevelt? Like his look?
Teddy Roosevelt?
Yes.
No?
I pulled up this picture while I was watching it, because I don't know why. I kind of almost wondered
if Teddy Roosevelt.
It's not?
No.
I looked up Teddy Roosevelt.
Is it?
Right at the top of the screen there.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. The second time around, I almost wondered if there was a certain... Like, for instance, this is kind of crazy to bring up Star Trek, but I'm going to bring up Star Trek 6. Kind of like in Star Trek 6 when they said that Gorkon was slightly inspired off of Abraham Lincoln. In terms of not only his mannerisms, but his look. They actually gave him... And if you kind of look at him, you can kind of tell. And I almost wondered if, just a little bit in the way he looked, if he was supposed to be somewhat inspired off of Roosevelt.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I must have been thinking somebody else. Okay. But yeah, that he does actually. He looks like FDR there. I'm betting that was part of it.
But
so they're two interesting characters. What did you think of the Big Lebowski?
I thought it was an interesting twist that you find out that all this time he is totally fooling everyone into thinking that he's this great businessman and Mr. Responsibility and Mr. Hard Work and all this stuff, when you find out that he's actually was a poor businessman. He just married into money, and they tried to, have him do something. He ran it into the ground. He's stealing from his own foundation to, feed his desire. His daughter put it best? Vanity was his great weakness. And, I thought that was an interesting twist, actually. And to be honest, I actually kind of had the suspicion, too. I was like, I bet you this guy walks.
You've never been so sure of anything in your life.
Yeah. No, but, I mean, I kind of wondered that throughout the movie. Like, I wonder if he can walk. And
Go ahead,
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. I just wondered about that.
So, that's David Huddleston as the actor. I'm trying to think of what else I've seen him in, because I know I've seen him in other stuff. I'm going through his filmography a little. He was actually in an episode of Next Generation. He played the conductor.
Okay.
And kind of vaguely remember that now. He's been in Columbo and Murder, She Wrote. Shout out to John. He was in Walker, Texas Ranger. Oh, you owe a shout out to somebody, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I want to thank Rob Hatmaker, for giving me this huge box of Star Trek and Star Wars stuff. That was very cool of him to think of me. I was actually kind of surprised when you brought it over to me. I asked you where you got it. You said Rob had given it to you to give to me. And I was like, how does he even... I didn't even know he knew I was into all this stuff. But I thought that was very cool of him. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it.
Okay, so I'm looking at his filmography right now. Some of the other stuff he's been in. He's been in an episode of Sunny in Philadelphia, which I remember. He was in The Producers, the remake that was out not too long ago.
Okay.
Ferris Bueller in it.
Oh, yes.
Blazing Saddles. He was in that. He was one of the people that lived in the small town. Have you seen Blazing Saddles?
No, I haven't.
That's one we might have to cover at some point. It's a little... It could.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's a movie that can never be remade.
Or at least not the same way, yeah.
Yeah, those two work well together. I like the idea of the handicapped millionaire rolling around his house with the help of this, like, little... How would you describe Brant?
Well, he's a yes man. Like I said, he a little bit reminds me of Smithers from The Simpsons with Mr. Burns, a little bit of Dwight with Michael. Just the way that they, whatever this person needs, yes. I have no opinion for myself. It's whatever you think. Never go against him. I
called him a manservant, but that makes him sound more like a butler. He's more like a James Bond villain. He has a number one henchman.
Yeah, I guess.
He's kind of like his henchman in a way.
Well, I noticed
he doesn't get his hands
in certain
dirty.
scenes, he, like, especially in the limousine when they watch the drink, man.
Yeah.
Or the beverage,
Hey, man, there's a beverage here.
I noticed when the dude would say stuff to Lebowski, it almost seems like Brandt waited to find out how Lebowski was going to answer it so then he could go along with it. Like, it didn't seem like there's one point where he's kind of paused and he's just like waiting and looking, and then like once I
felt like
handles it.
Whenever that scene comes on, I always feel like the millionaire Jeffrey Lebowski, he's doing all this screaming at the dude, and then once he's done screaming, Brandt kind of restates what he said in a way to clarify for the dude, almost as though he's interpreting the yelling.
Yeah, I suppose there's almost a certain degree. I'm not saying it is, but there's like it's almost like a musical. Granted, none of the cast is actually singing, but there's surprisingly a lot of little musical numbers, if I can call them that.
Well, there's the dream sequences.
Yeah, where they're musical, essentially. And it's kind of strange. I guess it works for the context of the film, but...
I feel like one of the big wins for this movie, like, I like everything about this movie, but for me, one of the things that stands out a lot is the soundtrack. Okay. I feel like the soundtrack really works well with the movie, and like you're saying, those dream sequences are pretty cool. I especially like that second one, where it's like, she's dressed up like the Viking from an opera, and he goes to get the bowling shoes. Like, every little thing that's happened in that movie is kind of incorporated in that dream sequence in some way or another.
To be honest, it's not that I actually didn't really care for the musical dream sequences. However, I was impressed. It looked like, because they panned his face, and didn't look like a switcheroo. Especially, I wouldn't know how they did that in 98. He was like doing this little, like, not super impressive little footwork as he's going down these stairs, and they pan up, and it's Jeff Bridges. I was actually just kind of impressed he was able to do that while moving downstairs. But I don't know, the dream sequence a little bit kind of slowed it down for me. I'm not saying I wish they would have cut them out, but I could. It didn't add to me.
I like them. I think maybe the pacing is at times can be slightly off in the movie, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with that.
Okay.
So he goes to meet Brandt and Jeffrey Lebowski. He also meets Bunny.
Yes.
Played by Tara Reid. This was back in was 98. Tara Reid.
I was Tyra Reid, I thought.
No.
Okay.
Tara.
Tyra.
She was in this and like those American Pie movies.
Yeah. And now she's in those Sharknadoes, which I've never seen any of those, but
yeah. I think people were betting on her to kind of be a big thing coming up, but she never really seemed to do anything. And she's a little weird now, to be kind.
I just saw her in an interview. It was for one of the Sharknadoes she did, and she was talking about a whale, how she done some research on sharks, and she noticed there was such thing as a whale shark, which she assumed was the result of a whale and a shark having offspring. It's like, I almost even wondered, was this like kind of like the whole Jessica Simpson thing where they, like she says something kind of dumb, and then they have her say dumb things to become like her shtick. I didn't know if like
Jessica Simpson thing.
Yeah, that was the whole. I'm gonna cut all this out. This is stupid.
No,
that whole thing that chicken of the sea, and she's like, well, how are there chicken in the sea? And he was saying, well, tuna is like the chicken of the sea, and like everyone thought it was like really funny, I guess, that she said something dumb. So then they clearly had her just saying dumb stuff.
Yeah, they like to get people like that, but yeah, she got kind of weird. She seems kind of like an orange skeleton with a boob job now.
Yeah.
And, yeah, she's just a little off. I hope she gets better, whatever's up with her. Do you think that Brant had a thing for her, or was she just kind of messing around?
I never took it as such.
Yeah, it didn't really come off that way.
No. There's a lot of little things that, I mean, I know why it's just to have something happen in the story, but, like, so they go to that kid's house, Todd. And
Todd?
Yeah. And basically
You're talking about little Larry Sanders?
Was it Larry?
No, not Larry Sanders.
I thought his name was Todd.
No. Sellers. Larry Sellers.
Okay. They go to the kid's house that they are convinced stole the dude's car, and that he then got the money and used to buy this other car.
Was that a Corvette?
Actually, I don't know. I'm not sure. But what was funny is, Walter assumes that this kid stole the money and bought a flashy new car. So you find out it's really the neighbor across the streets. Like, there's no way someone like that wouldn't be keeping a car like that either in his garage or at the very least in his driveway.
Maybe he wants to show it off.
I guess. But, like, it's just little stuff like that.
He
obviously.
just bought it 2 days ago.
Yeah.
He wants everyone to see it.
I guess. And then, like, just the fact, if you kind of look, and then again, this is probably like people are going to roll their eyes when I say this statement, but, like, I kind of feel like the dude's car, little by little, it's already a piece of crap when we first meet him and see his car. And then when Walter jumps out the car, it gets shot up, crashes into, like, a telephone pole. It later gets then he gets in a car wreck when he sees that private eye following him. Gets broken into and, peed in.
Yeah, it's like a running gag in the...
It eventually gets caught on fire. It kind of reminds me of Tommy Boy with Richard.
Oh, yeah.
David Spade's character.
Yeah.
Like, only difference is his car is, like, a nice car, but little by little, it's a running gag that it just gets more...
throughout the movie, more and more things. It gets shot. I think my favorite scene in the movie, or the one that I get the most chuckles out of, is where he's coming back from the doctor's office. He's listening to that song.
Yeah.
So he's smoking a joint and he's drinking a beer while driving, and he notices that Blue Beetle is following him, right? So, he's paying attention to this guy, and he goes to flick the joint cigarette out the window, and it bounces back because the window's rolled up.
He has a funny little... scream cry of terror.
Yeah.
He does with both the ferret and the cigarette.
He starts dumping the beer on his lap, trying to put the joint out. And, since he's paying more attention to that, he ends up running the front of his car into that dumpster. And just the front of the car gets so much air. It probably gets like 5 feet up in the air. I just start cracking up every time he crashes into that. But yeah, it's a running gag throughout the movie. His car gets more and more destroyed until eventually it's... no more. They finally killed his car. Yeah,
there's a bunch of little funny things, like, earlier his...
According to the internet, that car that they smashed up was a 1985 Chevrolet Corvette C4.
Okay, that's the dude's car?
That was the car that Walter destroyed.
Oh, okay. There's little funny things, like, the landlord comes... It's kind of a throwaway line, really. He wants him to come see his play, and he seems like probably the worst landlord ever because people probably take advantage of his niceness.
He seems like he's a pushover, yeah.
Yeah. But what's funny is he says, I'll be there. And then all this crazy stuff's happening where people are...
But he still goes to that
He
guy's
still goes. I thought that was funny that he remembered he brings two friends while at it. And then I thought it was funny that they have this throwaway line about going to get the, this kid, he lives over by that In-N-Out burger. They have good burgers, blah, blah, blah. And we'll go after it. And then, like, this whole thing happens where he smashed up that guy's car. That guy comes out. They still go to the In-N-Out burger afterward. I just thought it was funny they actually, like, follow through with certain things.
They're eating their cheeseburgers as the wind from the windowless windshield area is blowing in. What I was thinking about while we're watching it this time, and I never really put too much thought into it before, is this movie takes place in Los Angeles, and there's always that thing about everybody in California is like an aspiring actor or something like that. Well, a lot of the characters in this movie have some kind of background where they're a musician, an actor, an artist somehow.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of a cool little touch. Like, you don't really think about it. You don't notice it, but your brain does. Oh, running gags. That's what I was going to bring up. So, speaking of running gags, there's something that I noticed in the movie. I don't think I've seen anybody else ever talk about it, really. Throughout the movie, there's little phrases that the dude hears. Like, he'll hear somebody say it, and then he'll repeat it later in a conversation that has nothing to do with...
Like, almost like he's trying to up his vocabulary, or...
Yes, like that. Because at the very beginning of the movie, when he's at the store buying the cream, he is looking up at that TV, and there's George Bush on there talking about the Iraq situation. Mm-hmm. He says, this will not stand. This aggression against Kuwait will not stand. Well, later on, when he's talking to the Big Lebowski, he says, this will not stand, man. This aggression will not stand. Mm-hmm. So he says it. And then throughout the movie, other things that other characters say, you'll hear him say later. Yeah. It's just a little thing that I noticed.
That's funny, yeah. I mean, I thought it was funny the way he relaxes. He pours himself a bath. He's got the candles, and he's listening to a whale song. Yeah. And he's so passive about it. When these guys break in his house... He just kind of like looks like, and he doesn't seem really alarmed about it.
This is a private residence, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be thinking like, you're naked, so it's 3 against 1, and you're naked. You're kind of in this vulnerable spot, but like he doesn't seem to be too concerned until they throw the ferret in there, and even once they walk away or leave, he just whatevs like. Ah, man, they smashed my answer machine or whatever.
He's so laid back that even when he's trying to like come back, like make a comeback, when he's in a conversation with somebody, it comes off as so wimpy. Like John Turturro, when he comes over saying that he's going to wreck him in bowling, he said, I can't remember what he said, but the dude's comeback was, well, that's just like
your opinion,
man. Yeah, it's so passive. And
he couldn't think of anything.
Yeah, and even when at the end when he's saying like, you needed some poor sap to pin it on. You had just met me. You think, oh, here's a square the community won't care about. And he's like, well, aren't you? Well, yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping that so he goes to that beach house party thing, which that kind of reminded me of The Howling, that it's almost like a cult in a way. It seems a little weird. It kind of
a beach party.
Yeah, but... for some reason, it reminded me of the cult that hung out on the beach.
Well, it reminded me of Police Academy because there was a beach party.
Okay. Well, anyway, so what was the name of that guy?
Jackie Treehorn.
Okay, Treehorn. And then he ends up getting apprehended by the police of this little town, and the cop's a big butthole. And I was kind of hoping they were going to say that basically maybe the cop was kind of involved with some dirty deeds where he was kind of watching out for Treehorn. Treehorn's kind of maybe helping him out.
They kind of imply it like he cares more about keeping his rich residents
exactly
happy.
Exactly. I was kind of hoping that they were going to eventually say that this cop was found out that he was doing some dirty stuff behind the scenes and maybe he was going to get in some trouble.
Well, if they did though, then that'd be a little too much focus on a character that's just really there for one scene.
I guess. I just the way he treated him, I just like I want to see this guy go down.
That was a pretty funny scene, the interaction between the two. I love during that scene with Jackie Treehorn, though, where they're having the meeting. And, Jackie Treehorn's trying to engage in a little bit of small talk before they get down to business.
Yeah. The whole time, I was like, I don't know, I didn't trust him about that drink. But I wondered if they almost wanted to make you fear about the drink, but then because the first time he gives it to him, it's fine. But then he refills it. When it was.
I have a feeling the first one was spiked too because
you think it took it longer?
Yeah,
maybe I don't know.
It seems like it would take a minute for that stuff to kick in, but there's some funny interactions there. He says they're talking about the adult industry, the adult film industry, and Jackie Treehorn says that people forget that the brain is the largest erogenous zone, and I don't know what like the dude kind of sits back and he's like, well, maybe on you, like, haha,
Okay.
But like it's kind of a put down to him too, like, oh, so he's got a small brain, It's just the weirdest thing. And then when Jackie Treehorn goes to answer the telephone and the dude sees him scribbling something on that pad of paper, he has like, this is actual kind of like a detective move. He runs over there and he starts. Like
tracing it,
trying to figure out what he wrote on it, but it didn't pay off at all. It was just a little doodle.
See, I thought that might come back into play because
it did with the cop.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you look at it, let's say the paper's this big. I felt like he was mostly on the left side. I almost wondered if later he was going to etch out the right hand, and you were going to find out something was written down that might give them a clue.
It was just a joke.
No, it was just a joke.
I do like that it was like one of the smartest things he did, and like it just didn't pay off at all.
Yeah, thought maybe that might come into play later, something more significant. You know, there's weird stuff like, okay, so obviously it ends up being that the briefcase didn't have any money in it, but for all they know, at one point it does. So I thought it was funny they left it in the car. You know, like if you had something that had that much money, you would keep it on you. You know, you'd never let it leave your...
Would you take it to the bowling alley? Would
yes.
You feel weird?
No.
Would you? I wouldn't have even gone bowling, first of all.
No, but I'm saying I would definitely not leave it in my car. Like, if you wanted to go bowling, I had a briefcase full of money, I'd say, okay, Brandon, you can bowl.
Well, they had
I'm going to sit here holding this thing.
They had it in the trunk.
Yeah,
you
but
think
still,
it's $1 million.
If you think it's $1 million, you're not leaving it in there.
It's kind of odd to me that they never opened it. Then,
that too.
I suppose
That is kind of funny.
I love that when in that scene when he goes to call the cops to report his missing car.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there holding onto that phone. It's ringing, and they're just looking at him like, "What is this weirdo?"
Yeah. Was it a goof that they had said that when he got his car back, that the driver's side door wouldn't open, but then later when they go to that kid's house, he was able to open the driver's side door? I'm assuming that was just a goof.
Well,
maybe they fixed it or
time had passed. You can assume that he found a way to jimmy it and get it loose again. There was the scene where he crashed into the dumpster, though, and he couldn't get out because the driver's side door was still messed up.
Yeah.
There was one goof that I caught, though.
The guy walking up when they spread the ashes?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh.
Well, tell me what you're talking about first.
When they spread Donnie's ashes in Bay or whatever, and there's like this little moment, you see, I mean, I guess it's like a public, probably like a state park, I'm assuming, maybe, or just a beach. I mean, there are probably other people around, but I'm assuming they didn't want it. But right there when, like, I think they hug, you see like a guy, it looks like he's walking a dog.
Up on the cliff?
Yeah, you see like a guy walking the dog. I just assumed that was a guy
walking by.
Yeah, I mean...
I didn't think it was a goof.
Oh.
You thought it was like a production person or what?
At first. The second time it looked like he was just walking his dog.
So I don't know if it's officially a goof, but it seems like to me when the dude at the end is calling Walter to say, "Come pick me up.
Yeah.
We have to go. It's an emergency." He starts talking while the phone is still ringing. And sure, that doesn't mean too much, but it seems like what he's saying is supposed to be being said into the answering machine. And then later on in that same conversation, he says, "It is an emergency, that's why I need you to come and get it." And he says, "I know that. That's why I answered the phone." So it seems like he should have been talking into his answering machine, but the sound guys, after they had filmed the movie,
I didn't catch that part,
messed it up and kept the phone sound effect, like the ring, going instead of the answering machine. That's the only thing that I noticed.
I didn't notice that one.
Julianne Moore. She's Maud Lebowski, the Big Lebowski's daughter in this. She's the one that actually kind of runs things and is like the head of the Lebowski estate.
Right.
Julianne Moore, she's great in this movie. I love her. I've always thought she was cool. I liked her a lot. She's been in a bunch of stuff. Boogie Nights, Jurassic Park.
She was in Boogie Nights?
Yes.
Honestly, to be honest, I don't. That's with Mark Wahlberg, correct?
Yes.
I'm not sure if I've seen it.
It's an alright movie.
I don't remember. It's like about the 70s, right? Or no?
It takes place a little bit back in the day, but it has an adult theme to it.
Yeah.
But it kind of reminds me of those Scorsese movies like Casino and Goodfellas, or even maybe like Scarface. But maybe not as serious.
Yeah. Does it have Burt Reynolds in it? Is that the one with Burt Reynolds?
Yeah, it has Burt Reynolds in it. So anyway, she's great in this movie. I heard her say that they'd never told her to do that accent that she does. Like,
I was going to say, what kind of accent is
like
that?
An aristocratic type of thing, like I'm high society.
Yeah.
Kind of like a stuck-up thing. Sure. I don't know. But, you know, she thinks of herself as this... It's kind of pretentious. She's this artist.
Yeah.
She considers herself to be smarter than a lot of people.
Enlightened and all that, yeah.
But her character was great. I love the way that she talked to him. Like, she was almost testing him out at the beginning.
Yeah, so how did she even find out that he had her rug? She went to her father, found out mother's rug was gone, and okay. Yeah. She
wanted to get her rug back because that rug had been left to her by her dead mother. It wasn't her father's to give away, even though her father didn't really give it away. The dude just said so he could get a rug.
Right, yeah. But later though, even once they find out that he took the rug, he said, "It's not about the rug. I assure you that's not a problem. Just call me back." So like
Brandt doesn't care.
Yeah, well, probably because Lebowski doesn't care.
At that point, they wanted...
that was more important to them than...
They wanted dude to find Bunny for them.
Yeah.
I like her interactions. It's funny when they're together with the video artist, Knox Harrington.
Is that the giggling guy?
Yeah.
I know of him mostly from Harry Potter, actually.
I didn't recognize him.
Yeah, he was, well, I won't spoil it in case you ever decide to watch it, but he was in one of the Harry Potters. Actually, I think he was at least 2 of them. But
was he like a teacher?
Yes.
I assume he had more hair.
Yes, he did. He wasn't like a
and not a like pencil thin mustache.
Yes. Yeah, he was pencil thin in this movie. That was weird because I mean, not that he's a big guy now.
Well, I meant the mustache.
Right, I know. I'm just saying, like his actual size. He's pretty tiny in this movie.
In that scene where those two are together, she tells him to check out her records because that's where Uli, the kidnapper, she has one of his records.
Yeah. That
was actually a reference to the German techno band.
Rammstein.
No.
Du Hush.
No. I don't know why this is like it's on the tip of my tongue. I'll just cut it out. Forget that whole thing.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah. What's your next note?
I think it's funny the way he talked to Lebowski. Just his somewhat trying to like up his, like he's like part of it is talking to him just like he's talking to anybody else, but then part of him is trying to talk a little more proper, but it just sounds ridiculous, like man, sir, or or whatever. Again, this little stuff that it's like they don't showcase it to be a big joke, but they showed those cops and they're wearing shorts, and it just to me looked ridiculous.
Were they wearing shorts?
Yeah, the cops that like throw him down on the desk and then like throw him in the chair. The Beach Town cops, like they're wearing shorts. It just made them look like mall security to me. Like they just looked silly. Little stuff like that is just funny to me. Little background things, nothing significant.
So I don't think we've covered any Coen Brother movies on the podcast yet. This will be the first one.
Hooray!
Out of all their movies, this one's my favorite. It's my favorite movie of all time. So I'm obviously going to give it a good score. What are your final thoughts?
Well, I mean, I like that it takes its time. Some things I felt were a little unnecessary. I'm not saying they should take them out of the movie, but like the musical numbers or the dream sequences, I felt like they didn't do too much for me.
They're totally classic.
Hey,
I disagree.
Hey,
but these are your thoughts.
Wait your turn, sir. But I do like there's a lot of twist. You described it as a mystery movie, almost like a murder mystery movie, only really no one was murdered. But I kind of like the little twists and turns and the plot thickening. You're finding out a little bit more that this guy isn't who we really think he is. I thought that part was very interesting. And in the context of comedy, I thought that worked very well. Like, I like the way they bookend the story with the cowboy. And I like the maybe subtle idea that maybe he is something different than what we're thinking, or maybe he's not really there. I thought that kind of, even though they didn't allude to it, maybe that's just my theory. I thought that kind of actually enriched it a little bit, at least in my head. I liked it. It wasn't like, I definitely didn't like it as much as you. But if I was to grade it, I'd probably give it a C-.
A C-? A
C-.
Okay.
I'm assuming you're going to
give it... What don't you like about it? Besides the musical sequences.
I don't know. It's just... I don't even know how to put my finger on it. It's like, it's like sometimes we'll talk about movies and I'll be like, yeah, it was a good movie. I can go several years before I ever watch it again and be just fine. Or there's some movies I talk about where it's like, yeah, if I never see this movie again, that's fine. It's just not one of those movies I feel like, oh man, like I got to watch this every year or something, or I want to, study more about this movie. Like some movies intrigue me enough where like, oh, it's like, I'm interested to find out how this got made or what went into it. It's just not one of those for me. It's a fine movie, but just didn't really do what it did for me.
Oh yeah. For me, I like the story. I think it's intelligently written. I enjoy the realistic dark comedy of it. Like, I have a pretty wide spectrum of the types of comedy I can enjoy, and for me, like, two of the high points would be dark comedy and like subtle, almost dry humor, and that's kind of like has both of them right up there.
Is that some sort of Eastern thing?
Far from it, but the music is great. I love the soundtrack. I enjoyed the dream sequences. Before this movie, I wasn't really a fan of Jeff Bridges, but since then, everything I notice him in, I enjoy him more and more, and he's become one of my favorite actors.
I do think he's a good actor.
I love the cast. The cast has a huge cast. I love the whole cast. I think everybody is perfect for their roles. Mm-hmm. some parts some people might not like. I mean, it's really heavy on the swearing. There's a tiny bit of nudity in it, but like, I'm fine with it. For me, I love this movie so much. I love the characters and love the story. A+.
Nay, not A++.
No, just an A+.
All right, so what's next, Brandon? What are we doing?
Well, October is rolling up, so we got to get busy doing some stuff for Monster Month. I'm looking forward to it. I think you are too. All right, we'll see you next time on the Skate Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in. Tell your friends.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to travel through time. I bid you adieu.
Don't stop now! You can't go! All the plants are gonna die!
Where are you going? I've got to return some videotapes.
Bye, Felicia.
Bow. Bow, 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 bow. Bow, 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 bow. Bow, bow, bow. Bow, bow, bow.